everyone, welcome back to the My Favorite Things YouTube channel. I'm Karolyn, and I'm dropping in today to share a process video for an interactive card that I created featuring one of the new stamp sets from the Bertie Brown collection. The Cat-astrophe stamp set is filled with fun and adorable images and some great sentiments. When I saw that automated vacuum, I just knew I needed to put one of the cute cats on top and make it move. So I used the double slider loop slots to make it look like he's sliding across the floor. I started with one of the papers from the Fun in the Sun 6x6 paper pack. I trimmed it to 3 inches by 5.5 inches, and I'm adhering it to a smooth white panel that measures 4¼ inches by 5.5 inches. I thought I'd build a little scene for my cats, so I'll use this as the wallpaper on the wall. For the baseboard, I die cut the long banner from smooth white cardstock using the banner die from Blueprints 27. If you don't have Blueprints 27, you could trim a piece of white cardstock that measures 1/2 inch by 5.5 inches. I adhered the strip about 2 3/4 inches from the top using tape runner adhesive. I'll die cut the outer edge of the panel with a stitched rectangle die. Next, I trimmed another 4¼ inch by 5.5 inch smooth white panel, and I've placed it onto my scoreboard diagonally. I want to add some scored lines to make it look like floorboards, so I'm using my scoring tool to score lines every 1/4 inch across the panel, and then I'll use the same stitched rectangle die that I used to cut the wall panel. Off camera, I trimmed off the excess paper below the baseboard. I've positioned the trim panel on top of the flooring panel, and I'll mark that bottom line onto the flooring panel with a pencil. This will help me know where to position my mechanism so that it's hidden behind the wall. I secured the larger of the 2 double slider loop slots dies above that pencil line and slightly to the left, and I'll die cut it off camera. Then I'll position the second to the largest of the spin and slide channel dies so that the left edge of the die sits just to the right of that first slot. I'll secure it in place with a piece of washi, and I'll do a partial die cut of that die off camera. And now you can see that the die didn't cut all the way through on the right. I'll remove the die and reposition it so that the right edge of the die is aligned just to the left of the second slot. Once secured with a piece of washi, I'll die cut the remainder of the channel off camera. The partial die cut technique is great for creating custom lengths of channels to fit every situation. Okay, now I'll clean up my panel a bit to remove any excess adhesive that got left behind and that pencil line that we marked earlier. I need a loop for my mechanism, so I've trimmed a 1/2 inch strip from a Ziploc bag that I had on hand. This material is good and sturdy and perfect for my loop. I'll use my scissors to trim off the zipper part of the strip, and then I'll feed both ends of the strip through the 2 slots. I'll pull the 2 ends and overlap them at one of the ends. I'll leave a slight amount of slack so that the loop will move smoothly, and then I'll secure the 2 ends with my Tim Holtz tiny attacher. I'll trim off the excess strip using my scissors. Next, I cut a pull tab using the pull tab die from the Meet in the Middle Dynamics. If you don't have that set of dies, you can trim a strip that measures 3/4 inch by 5¼ inches from some heavyweight cardstock. I've aligned the pull tab with the slider channel, and I'll temporarily hold that in place with a piece of washi tape. And then I can use my tiny attacher again to staple the pull tab to the plastic loop in approximately the same area as the existing staples. And once the pull tab is stapled to the loop, I can remove that washi tape. Next, I die cut a collar from some lightweight printer paper using the collar die from the Launch Party Dynamics. If you don't have that set of dies, you can trim a piece of printer paper 1/4 inch by 2 3/8 inch. I folded that strip on the provided score lines, and I'll secure the ends together with some liquid adhesive. I'll apply more liquid adhesive to the back of the collar. I'll slide it onto the end of the pull tab and secure it to the flooring panel. This collar will help keep the pull tab aligned when you're activating the mechanism. I trimmed a 1/2 inch by 3 inch strip of acetate, and I'm adhering some 1/4 inch double-sided tape to one end of the strip. This is the strip that I'll attach my traveling kitty to. I've peeled off the liner paper from the double-sided tape, and I'm sliding the sticky end under the front loop through the channel, and I'll secure it to the back side of the loop because this is the side of the loop that will make my scooting kitty move to the right. Next, I stamp my sentiment from the Cat-astrophe stamp set onto some lemon drop cardstock using Sweet Tooth pigment ink. I ink it up and stamp it a few times to make sure I have good coverage. And then I'll add some white embossing powder, and I'll heat emboss it off camera. Once the embossing powder has cooled, I'll use the largest of the Fishtail flag trio dies to cut the cinnamon strip, again using the partial die cutting technique. I also cut the 2 coordinating fishtails. I'm securing the 2 fishtails to the back of the sentiment strip with some thin 3D foam squares, and I've adhered them so that they're slightly offset from the sentiment strip. I've adhered some foam squares to the back of the wall panel and made sure that I didn't place any adhesive in places that would interfere with the movement of my mechanism. I also placed foam squares to the right and left of the mechanism so that the wall is securely fastened to the flooring panel. And now I can assemble the rest of my card. I'm applying a little bit of tape runner adhesive to the back of the scooting kitty so that I can adhere him to the robot vacuum. I also stamped the word bubble from the Cat-astrophe stamp set and thought it'd be cute attached to my moving kitty. So I trimmed a thin piece of acetate that I adhered to the back of the speech bubble with double-sided tape, and now I'm adhering it above the kitty's head with more double-sided tape. I'm placing a foam square to that dangling acetate strip just above the bottom edge of the flooring panel. And now I can adhere my moving cat to that foam square, and I'll use my scissors to trim off the excess acetate strip. Next, I'll attach the non-moving kitty to the flooring panel using another foam square. I'll attach the sentiment banner to the wall panel using more thin 3D foam squares. I trimmed a 5.5 inch by 8.5 inch card base from Lemon Drop cardstock, and I scored it at 4.25 inches and perfected the crease with my Teflon foam folder. I've adhered some foam squares to the back of my assembled panel, and I can now adhere it to the card base. And here's where I should remind you not to place any adhesive in places that would interfere with the movement of the mechanism. And thankfully, I must have done something right because my mechanism is working perfectly. I wanted to stamp a word prompt at the end of my pull tab, so I've inked up and I'm stamping the word pull from the interactive label stamp set using black licorice hybrid ink. And with another tug on the pull tab, you can see how much fun action that roving kitty adds to this sweet little scene. He's cute enough to make anyone's bad day into a good one. And that, my crafty friends, will do it for my monthly interactive card process video. I love using familiar mechanisms and applying them to new product. Check out your stash to see how you can use this double slider loop mechanism yourself. Be sure and subscribe to the MFT YouTube channel so that you don't miss any of the fun we're having around here. Thanks for stopping by and have a wonderful day.